to thank everybody for coming here this evening. I know it's just such a special thing to celebrate, Dell and Jordan. But I think Gray and I kind of have a different reason to celebrate this than probably the rest of you. Is Gray and I are pretty proud that Dell kind of kept on pace with both of us in marrying a gal that's a little bit older than us, and marrying a gal that's into education, and marrying a girl who's willing to settle for one of us, Pearson. And so as Dad did last night at rehearsal, Dad kind of threw out a couple stories and applied it to Jordan in terms of applying from that story something Dell has done and how she can kind of use that in their marriage. That's kind of the same format that Gray and I are going to go with, but it's going to be a little bit more up close and probably personal than Dad did. So this first story started like in a creek that was like 2 or 3 miles away from here, and it was like a really cold, cloudy March in about I would say like 2007-ish. And so in this rare event that we would ever get enough rain here, this creek would overflow. And I've seen that happen maybe twice in my entire life. And this was the first time that I'd ever seen it happen. And so Dylan and I were kind of driving into track practice, and we were scheming, like, we got to make the most of this opportunity. Like, what are we going to do? And so we had this canoe. And we're like, well, let's just roll it down the creek and see what happens. And so we were all excited about that, talking about it. And people kind of caught wind of this. And so next thing you know, like, here we are, like, about ready to kick off from this bank, and there's, instead of two, just him and I, there's 4 more people. So I'm just going to stop there, and there's 3 things that, as a 16-year-old boy, you don't necessarily think too much about. Is 1, this water was cold. It's March. Like, take your breath away. It's just miserably cold. Secondly, all of this water was rain runoff from cornfields that have recently been fertilized. And for those of you that are not from Nebraska, a lot of these fields are fertilized with like cow manure. So this water was like brown and gross and all that stuff. And thirdly, I guess probably most importantly to mention, this canoe had the capacity for 2 people, not the 6 people that we had packed in there. So I thought it was going to go pretty good until we kicked off, and I realized it's like, oh boy, those 4 extra people probably weren't the best idea. It's like water's like already starting to like pour in. So we rocked one way, rocked another way, made it all of 3 seconds before we capsized, lost our lunches that we thought we were going to make it like an hour and a half later with, and lost everything, oars, all that stuff. And so we plunged into this water. And the water was moving obnoxiously fast, and that water was obnoxiously stanky. It was brutal. And so my first memory was, it's like I popped up, it's like, oh man, this is cold. And I saw one of our friends who got caught on the bottom side of the canoe with his sweatshirt, and he couldn't dislodge from it. And my very first memory was this guy screaming at the top of his lungs, help me, somebody help me, I'm gonna die. Like, this is not a good deal. Eventually he ripped his sweatshirt in half, got out of it, and so he was good, grabbed a bank, and the other, like, 2 other people and myself, we grabbed a bank. Okay, we got 4 or 6, that's not terrible. Like, 30 seconds later, Dell and this other guy named Gavin, who's here, like, he's submerged, and I'm like, okay, good, we're 6 for 6, but like everyone was dead silent. First time like I've ever experienced like a kind of a near-death type deal. And so, keep in mind we're like 15, 16 at the time, so we all kind of walked with our heads down back to the Jeep. No one said anything. We just sat there for a good long time until someone's like, what in the world just happened? And so they eventually, we all told our stories and stuff, but Dell, I remember asking him kind of at the end, no one had said anything. Dell's like, I'm like, Dell, like, what happened? Like, what happened to you? And he said, well, I was at the back of the canoe with this other guy. We dumped, and because the bridge was like full max capacity, there was like an undercurrent that grabbed him, sucked him underneath the bridge, and so they went to get like some air. They hit their heads on concrete. They couldn't get out. So then they like somehow had this wherewithal to sink to the bottom, and then kick out, broke out of the current, and like submerged. Don't know how it happened. They had to have been under there for like 40 seconds, which probably seemed like an eternity to them. But I remember when Dell explained it for the very first time to all of us. 1, he was so calm, cool, and collected. I just couldn't believe it. And then secondly, the last line that he said that I'll never forget was, yeah, that was pretty awful, but that's not the worst thing I've ever gone through. You're 13! So, Jordan, application number one is, Dell apparently is accustomed to these sort of events and situations, near-death experiences. And so, the application is, if Dell, you ever see him starting to panic, just assume that the next step is, you're probably gonna die.
Well, Jordan, I have kind of two stories, a little bit of advice for you here tonight. And I guess my first one is kind of how unpredictable Dell can be. For those of you who do not know Dell or have only very recently met Dell, he might seem like a very soft-spoken, very polite, very well-behaved guy. But I've known Dell for all 25, 26 years of his life. We work together every day. I know him pretty well. He's not any of those things. He's pretty wild, unpredictable. He's kind of a crazy guy. And I guess the one story that really stands out in my mind, Jordan, here that I can really kind of prove my point to you tonight would go back to the mid-'90s to the late '90s. As kids, we were in the Awana program out of Holcomb Church. And on Wednesday nights, we would go to the Awana program, and on Wednesday nights, you could go to your Awana leader, and you could recite the verses that you had memorized throughout the week. And if you would recite your verses correctly, you could earn these things called the Awana buck. And you could accumulate enough Awana bucks, and then once or maybe 3 times a year, the Awana leads would host this thing called the Awana store. And as a kid, this Awana store was just absolutely awesome. You could go to the Awana store, and you could buy all the stuff. And as an adult looking back on it, now I realize it was just a chance for the Awana leaders to pawn off a bunch of junk they didn't want to. But one year, Lincoln and I, is the final Awana year for the year, the Awana store for the year, and Lincoln and I had blown most of our Awana bucks on typical boy stuff. We had bought baseball cards and I think a sack of marbles. We were going to come home and throw at the cats. But that year, Dell had not spent a single dollar at the Awana store, and he had saved all of his Awana bucks for the very final Awana store, which was kind of the grand finale. And Dell had bought himself a very, very, very incredible Barbie. This Barbie was, I was probably 3-4 foot tall, had the blonde curls, the blue eyes, the dress, the handbag, the high heels, everything. And so we're on our way home, and Lincoln and I are talking like, oh, look, I got a Brett Favre football card, and I got the sack of marbles, and we didn't really pick up on the fact that Dell's in the back of the van playing with a Barbie. But anyways, we get home, and Lincoln and I are kind of over here by the chicken coop, throwing marbles at the cat, and Dell's kind of over back here by the barn, playing with his Barbie. And about that time of the night, my dad Brent comes home, and he sees us throwing marbles at the cat, and he looks over, and Dell's playing with his Barbie all by himself. He's like, oh boy. So my dad Brent goes upstairs into the house here and into upstairs where my mom was, and they're like, okay, we have to talk to Dell, like boys don't play with Barbies, boys are boys, girls are girls. So they kind of read through a little scripture, they spend a little time in prayer, like how we're going to extend this onto a spiritual aspect of how we're going to, tell Dell, it's kind of how God made boys, girls and girls. So they're coming up with this great game plan. But what they didn't know at the same time is right over here is a gas barrel. And Dell has an absolutely massive bonfire going. Dell's 6, and this is it's kind of a Jordan little side note, little red flag. Dell has a very, very well-controlled burn going at 6 years old. It's a very professional burn.
It wasn't his first rodeo.
No, yeah, he's had a lot of burns by 6. And so Mom and Dad are upstairs making this game plan. They're going to talk to Dell. Dell's got this huge fire going, and in the meantime, he has also duct taped Barbie to this long stick. So Mom and Dad kind of come down, and you guys can kind of see this window over here. They kind of walk down the stairs and look out the window in time to see Dell holding Barbie on this long stick, slowly rotating Barbie over the fire. The hair, the dress, the handbag, everything is just an absolute flame. Barbie is just this melted puddle of plastic, charred, burnt. Nothing's left. And Brent and Polly are thinking, okay, we're going to talk to you about wanting to play Barbies, but they're looking and Dell is burning a Barbie over fire, and like, well, what the heck? I don't know how do you parent this? I don't know what to do. How do you handle this? And it's been 25 years, and they still don't know how to handle it. Jordan, I guess my advice for you is, when it comes to Dell, just be ready for the unexpected. And if you guys have kids, don't buy them Barbies.